So the title of our program tonight is Seeking Understanding and Reconciliation in Times of Upheaval, the Interfaith Journey of the Interfaith Peace Walk. Some people could say that we're living in a period where the perfect storm is occurring, a time of great upheaval and unrest. We're in the midst of a very serious pandemic that is impacting our whole culture and the whole world, and all the grief and change that is part of that turmoil. Police brutality has sparked and created a renewal of anger and rage and distress, not only among African Americans who experience it more greatly than anyone else, but it's distressing to everyone. And we are in a period of polarization in our society that is quite extreme, and facing an election in which there is great hostility and great turmoil. What can Peace Day Philly, what can the Interfaith Peace Walk, what can the peace community offer at a time like this? And we've been struggling with that question. It's also a time of reflection, time to be talking together, as many groups are doing, and trying to understand what is our purpose and how do we express ourselves in this situation. So we're going to begin our program with a three-way conversation with myself and Adab Ibrahim and Lance Laver. And we want to give you in that conversation a little bit of background about how the Peace Walk got started. Also, some of the incidences through these 17, almost 18 years that we've been in existence, some of the periods of difficulty in our society that we have responded to with peaceful actions, and then also to be looking ahead into the coming year or so. What are we anticipating as possible actions? Not that we have all this settled and worked out completely in the Peace Walk, but we're in the process of really looking very closely and wanting to be guided by the values and the spirit that exists within our many different faiths. So with that, I'd like to speak or bring into this conversation Adab and Lance, and to say that when we first got started some 17, 18 years ago, it was also in the wake of 9/11, and that was a period also of great unrest. And we meaning the larger community and the multi-faith and the multicultural, multi-ethnic communities, we could either get into great conflict with each other, and particularly there was an amazing amount of animosity toward Muslim communities, or we could seek to dialogue and to befriend one another, to get to know each other, and we chose that approach. We also had a very strong value around a process called accompaniment. Accompaniment is essentially being present with our full selves in a compassionate and non-judging way with people who may be different than ourselves. And so with that spirit, the first Interfaith Peace Walk started. So I want to kind of toss the question to you, Adab, and that would be around what engaged you and Al-Aqsa into the Interfaith Peace Walk, and what are some of the highlights that come to your mind?
Greetings, everyone. As Vic said, I am one of the co-founders of the Peace Walk. I was introduced to this concept by Vic Comfer and Lance Laver. And post-11 was a time where, as a Muslim community, we were really experiencing times of fear and uncertainty and having people like Vic and Lance as allies that came to our assistance and provided their support was very important in helping us heal as a community. So for me, it was one of the first interfaith projects I've ever worked on, and it was a great hurdle in my life in working on different interfaith projects, but like as the beginning as for working on interfaith projects. So the idea of having this interfaith organization at that time was just perfect for our community to heal and to work on things that we can deal with together as far as the social injustice and some of the fear that the community was feeling. So the walk itself, you know, as being a vehicle to seek peace and understanding and justice was perfect for us. So it's a very powerful experience. For those who don't know, you know, it's not just a once a year thing. We would get together throughout the months and plan and do other social action activities together. And Lance will tell you more about that. But as far as the walk itself, it's a very powerful experience with people coming together, and especially with having people come to the mosque for the pre-walk and giving them the opportunity to enter a mosque. They're welcome to either pray or observe or meditate, but for people that were wanting to learn more about Islam after 9/11, that was the opportunity to do so. And then the walk itself, you know, with all the different programs, is just amazing format, and, you know, the different speakers, you know, the song, the different, you know, the music, the poetry. There's so many elements to the program that is very engaging and that is very moving. And most importantly, I felt like it gave people the opportunity to see the other and to begin to understand them and learn about their backgrounds, and find also a healing component. So people are who listen to others and allow voices to resonate from faces that are not always heard, they're mislabeled, they're mistreated, and are misused. It is a healing process for those who are listening and healing for those that are wanting to be heard.
Well, thank you very much for your comments. The hospitality of Al-Aqsa has just been extraordinary. We have been meeting there on a monthly basis all these years with always such a kind welcome. Our meetings were even served tea frequently, and people enjoy the Arab American store that's part of the complex there, and it's a wonderful experience. Lance, would you like to jump in and share a little bit about how you became involved with the Peace Walk, but also speak to some of the social action responses that we have tried to do over the years?
Right. So thanks, Vic. Yeah, I got involved when Vic contacted me about joining him and then Adab. And so the three of us got this started 18 years ago. And Adab has talked about how building relationships and trust among people of different faith traditions is central to the Peace Walk's mission. And I want to talk about how we have used this trust in the service of social justice and healing in response to public acts of intolerance or injustice in our area, and about what the Peace Walk now is planning regarding racial justice and reconciliation. Over our 18 years, there have been many times when different faith groups have been subject to acts or policies of bigotry that demanded a response, and at those times we have acted. A few examples. A decade ago, when Sikh men were forced at airport security checkpoints to remove their turbans, or that their turbans were touched by CSA officials, which is strictly forbidden in their religious practice, we organized a meeting between the Peace Walk, the Philadelphia Commission on Human Relations, the Sikh community, TSA and the State Department that helped to abolish this national policy. And in 2015, when an anti-Muslim group put Islamophobic ads on SEPTA buses, we worked with other interfaith and city groups in public protests to help overturn this SEPTA policy, allowing hateful advertising. And they did that by limiting the categories of ads that they would accept in the future. And in 2016, when a Pennsylvania legislator proposed a state law singling out the Quran and Islamic law negatively in legal cases, we joined a counter campaign that likely influenced legislators to abandon considering such a law. And now we're faced with the need to dismantle the oppressive systems that perpetuate racism in our country. So in the midst of the current upheaval, we have asked ourselves this question: how can the Peace Walk be a better advocate for racial justice and healing? We started by developing the Philadelphia Interfaith Peace Walk Vision for America 2020, which is now displayed on our website. You can go there and read the full document. That draws from each of the major Abrahamic tradition scriptures and is a poignant reminder of the intersection of faith and justice for racial healing in this country. It includes the Peace Walk's pledge to stand against racism and the other pathologies that make it possible. And it concludes by saying this: we in the Philadelphia Interfaith Walk for Peace and Reconciliation reject this hatred in all its insidious forms. We must call it out when we see it and hear it in our home and on our way, not just in cruel words or individual acts, but in oppressive institutions and systems that hurt and kill so many of our brothers and sisters and diminish all of us. We must search for it in our own hearts and root it out. Then and only then will we collectively reach the peace that we walk for. We followed up this vision with a listening session on racial justice and healing last month, where we came up with some ways to deepen our partnerships with predominantly African American faith communities, including making sure that there is always an African American house of worship as part of each future annual Peace Walk, developing a strong and ongoing relationship with an African American congregation to partner with, to discuss issues of concern involving racial justice and healing, and then to act on those issues. And we have now begun this process with a potential partner congregation in the city. Also, we are deepening dialogues with people of color by cultivating the interracial relationships that we have developed through the walk year to year. And Linda and Rafika will speak to this process a bit later in the program. So if you would like to join us in these ongoing activities, we would, of course, welcome your involvement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lance. We're also going to share later on specific ways that you can have contact with the Interfaith Peace Walk, and our meetings, which occur on a monthly basis, are open to interested public. In fact, there happens to be a meeting tomorrow night at 6:30, and you'll get more information about that if you might want to participate. At this time, we're going to look at a short video. It's about 4.5 minutes, and it will give you a sense of the Peace Walk. Maybe some of you in our audience today have participated and you have that memory and awareness, but some of you may be new to this. So the video will give you a little bit of the background of the development of the Peace Walk and also of what it's like. It's sort of a collage, and so we will watch that now, and then there'll be a conversation with Linda, who's one of our leaders, and Rafika, also one of our leaders, who is from Masjid Allah. And the two of them will have a dialogue together about their experiences. So for now, we'll watch the video.
Salam, shalom, peace. We may be on different journeys, brothers and sisters. We may be on different paths, but our goal is the same, and God has brought us together to race toward peace.
Everybody together, all tongues, all languages, all peoples, walking, holding hands, singing, praising God. It's wonderful.
Peace is possible. As my dialogue partner says, with the power of the heart.
So we have to reach into our hearts and find the peace within ourselves, find a means to seek justice for one another.
God teaches us better than this, to treat each other better, to treat each other with love and respect. And my hope is that we can help bridge the gaps that some people seem interested in producing by helping to organize and then walking along here. And I'm doing it. What brings me here is my daughter, who's asleep behind me, because I want her to live in a world where people love each other and respect each other.
Thank you for walking together, for as you walk together, you increase the sense of hope and the sense of energy of folks that aren't able to walk with you.
About 2.5 years ago, I took a trip to the Middle East with the Fellowship of Reconciliation, and while I was there, I met Rabbi Lynn Gottlieb and her friend Abdul Rauf Campos Marchetti. They told our peace delegation about this amazing peace walk that they had done in Albuquerque, and I was very excited about it, to learn about it, and I invited them to come to Philadelphia. This is now our third walk, so it's been progressing over time.
Let us remember, we are relatives. We are kin. We share the same earth. We share the same sky.
It's a pilgrimage in the name of God to really get to know and reconcile with one another. And that's really what the Peace Walk is about. It's about walking together in peace. And to me, it is a solution. It is the solution.
I was invited by a friend from my yoga class. So this is the very first time that I've ever been here. It's phenomenal. I'll never miss it again, that's for sure.
Good evening. I'm Linda Toya, and I've been an active member of the Peace Walk since 2005. I'm the program committee chairperson for our annual Peace Walk, and I'm a member of the Jewels. I'd like to introduce you to my good friend, Sister Rafika Abdul Rashid.
I give you the beautiful Islamic greeting. Assalamu alaikum, peace be on you. I'm the director and co-founder of the Jewels of Islam, which is a supportive network and program for women 50 years and older, which is open to all women of faith. Currently, we have Muslims, Christians, and a female rabbi.
We say in the Peace Walk community that the walk takes place all year. We just choose to be in the same place at the same time, one day a year. In that spirit, Sister Rafika and I invite you to walk with us as we share highlights of our individual stories and a bit about our ongoing commitment to building bridges together. Beginning with the first bridge that brought us to each other. As you will see, we started at opposite ends of this rather circuitous bridge that eventually brought us together. I grew up in Plymouth, Massachusetts, attended a private Catholic school, all white students, as I remember, thought the only people going to heaven were Roman Catholic, only knew 2 Jewish people, my dentist and his daughter, was not even aware of the Muslim tradition, and had only 1 Black friend. In the late 60s, I went to Oberlin College, where I learned a lot about the pain in the world and was challenged to imagine how I might be of service. I learned that it's not someone's religion or culture that is important, but rather how we choose to live. My first teaching position was with students who had learning difficulties in a very poor, all-Black school in Virginia. With minimal supplies and no teaching experience, I was totally overwhelmed and offered to visit my students and parents in their homes. I was profoundly changed by this experience and gradually developed quite close relationships with many of my students. During my early adult years, my husband and I moved to a suburb of Philadelphia. Within a few years, I experienced a series of profound losses, including the deaths of my husband and one of my sons. As I struggled through my dark night of the soul, I realized I had 2 choices. I could become a bitter, angry woman, or I could choose to transform my pain into compassion for the people around me, who I came to see more clearly also experienced pain in their lives. I give thanks that God led me to choose the latter. During this phase of my journey, I was led to the Episcopal Church and eventually married a deeply spiritual and compassionate Episcopal priest who guided me in my deepening commitment to social justice and interfaith work.
Just a little background about myself growing up. I went to Catholic elementary school, and it was just after integration of the schools in Philadelphia. It was rare to see much socialization between white and Black students, and there were differences in attitudes of the teachers toward Black students. By the 60s, the scene changed. It was the Black Power movement and demonstrations to confront the racism. It was hard times with Rizzo era in the 60s and early 70s here in Philadelphia, and unfair treatment of Black people. But with the young people, we were saying we had enough of it and were being vocal about it, and we were determined to make a change. And that we did by demonstrations, petitions, and boycotting businesses. I remember back when I was in college when Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated. All of the Black students walked out of all the classes. Now think about that. We did not have cell phones during that time or any way to alert all the students to walk out of the class. We heard about it and just did it just by instinct. We were angry and hurt. Professors just looked on. They did not say anything, but they understood. It was a sad time for Black students, but it was a good feeling of solidarity. In 1972, I got married and have been married now for 48 years. But throughout all of the racial unrest, and even though racism still goes on today, after I became Muslim back in 1976, it does not make me feel hate towards white people, basically because of my faith in Allah. Islam teaches us all humans are equal before God, regardless of race, class, or nationality. The daily prayers we do demonstrates this concept as Muslims from all walks of life pray shoulder to shoulder. And when we make the pilgrimage to Mecca, you see all races, rich and poor, which shows the universality of mankind worshiping one God.
In my life, fast forward many years, a guiding quote in my life as I prepared to transition from full-time teaching was this: "The place God calls you to is the place where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet." Two primary areas I felt called to were social justice and interfaith work. An important experience in my growing awareness of racial injustice was a conversation I had with one of my close friends who was my teaching assistant. Danette told me that when she and her husband, John, tried to rent a house in the suburb where I lived, they were turned down several times. They decided that John would go alone for the appointment with the realtor, as John's parents were biracial and John was very light-skinned. And the realtor agreed to rent a house to them. I was shocked when Danette shared this story with me. It was time for another step on my journey. The path to the Interfaith Peace Walk community was a total surprise. Frank and I were invited to attend a meeting in 2005 at the Al-Aqsa Mosque. We had never been to a mosque and were unfamiliar with this part of Philadelphia. I was quite uncomfortable and had a hard time even understanding everyone's names. More importantly, though, I was deeply moved by the commitment of the group's members and the deep respect people had for each other. That night began a remarkable journey that continues to this day. As Adab, Vic, and Lance explained, we moved to different parts of the city every 2 years. In 2009, when we were planning a walk in West Philadelphia, I met Sister Isama. We quickly became friends, and later Isama invited Frank and me to her wedding. Rafika will continue our story.
I enjoyed talking to Linda and found out we both knew Vic Comfort, who I worked with on my job at a short time. And I didn't see Linda again until years later at an interfaith event at Masjid Allah, the masjid that I attend, and started talking to her about the Jewels of Islam program and told her it was open to all women of faith. I invited her to come out to a Jewels meeting, and she did. And not only that, she has become a dedicated member to this day. Why did I invite her to come to the Jewels program? She is a woman of faith. She is kind and easy to talk to and a good listener. She is very interested in our program because we have interesting activities for all older women. We all can see we are more alike than different.
I was immediately comfortable with Rafika and looked forward to getting to know her better. She's firmly rooted in her faith, cares deeply about people, and is enthusiastic about connecting with people of different faith traditions. As the Peace Walk community's relationship evolved with Masjidullah, I heard about the Jewels and was very interested in learning more about them. After all, how could I not want to meet a wonderful group of women called the Jewels? I was delighted when Rafika invited me to attend a meeting. And like my first experience at Al-Aqsa, I was somewhat uncomfortable at first, realizing I was the only white woman in the group. The woman welcomed me with open arms, though, and I was totally moved by this gathering. I've been a Jewel now for 3 years and am deeply grateful for the trust these women have put in me. They are willing to share both the deep struggles they've had and continue to have in their lives. It truly is a privilege to be here. Rafika and I are in the process of building relationships between the Jewels and the women of my mostly white Episcopal church and look forward to the next steps on our journey. During the past few months, our Peace Walk group has been discerning what is ours to do about racial injustice. Rafika has been willing to meet with our Peace Walk group and has been most helpful to us. This is an incredibly challenging process and requires the deep trust that we have developed with each other. I give thanks to you, Rafika, for being willing to be on the journey with us as we move into what we are called to do. Thank you all for accompanying Rafika and me on our journey, and Patricia Coyne will now invite you into the conversation with all of us.
Excuse me. Thank you. Thank you for all that. I hope you've been absorbing it, and I see your faces. We have an opportunity now for about 15 minutes to answer questions, ask questions, or even just make some comments, or what are your thoughts about this? And we'll direct it to some of our Peace Walk folks. We'll do our best to keep this moving and try to make time for everyone. During the discussion, if you have a comment or question, feel free to put it in the chat, either privately to me, Patricia Coyne, or to the group. You can also raise your hand. So I have had a few in the private chat to me, but before I do that, is there anyone out there who has anything that you'd like to share? We can unmute you, and if you raise your hand, I can take a look and see if anyone has any thoughts, or how is this making you feel? What did you think this might be? Did this meet your expectations? Does it change how you think? Does it resonate with you in any way? Okay. I don't see any hands. That's all right. We'll get things started because I do have a few questions here that were asked. How do things change from year to year? Are there annual themes based on sites and participants? So I'll address that to one of our members. I'm thinking that these were two different people, but it seems they kind of fit together.
Lance, I wonder if you could speak to that.
Sure. Well, I just happen to have a chart in front of me of all the years we've had the walks and where we've gone and what the themes were about that. So I'll give you some examples of what some of the themes were. And before I say that, I will say that we have tried to move the walk around to different neighborhoods in the city of Philadelphia. And so we tend to be in a neighborhood for at least 2 years so we can build relationships with the congregations where we stop in the communities there. And then we'll move on to other neighborhoods. And the congregations that are part of the walk are active participants with us in developing the programs that happen at their church, synagogue, or mosque. And we try to have one of each at each Peace Walk. The intention is that they remain and we remain connected with each other through the years, even if we're not back in their neighborhood. So here are some of the themes. In 2006 in Center City, Prayers for Peace, Prayers for Unity. In West Philadelphia in 2009, People of Light, People of Hope, People of Courage. In 2010, back in West Philadelphia, Peace, Spirituality, and the Natural World. We have focused a number of these walks on the environment and the relationship of our spiritual lives and interfaith work with what's going on in the environment as well. The next year was similar. In 2011 in Overbrook Farms, the theme was planting seeds of peace. And we actually planted some bushes and trees at some of the congregations during that. And again, in 2012 in Center City, Stewards of the Earth, Stewards of Each Other, Stewards of Peace, where we're trying to continue making these connections. And the following year, back in Center City, Sustainers of the Earth, Sustainers of Each Other, Sustainers of Peace through the generations. So, and some others are Side by Side on Sacred Ground, Celebrating Transformations in Kensington. And then in Kensington in 2015, Reclaiming the Earth, Repairing the World. And we've also tried to focus the walks on youth, and many of the walks have involved many youth participants, both in the walking from different congregations and in the activities or the prayers or dance or singing or poetry, had a number of youth poets as part of the programs. And so in 2015 in West Oak Lane, the theme was Emerging Leaders' Voices for Peace and Justice. It focused on the youth. In 2017, Listening in Humility, Walking Together in Strength in West Oak Lane, where one of our stops was at Masjidullah. And in Center City in 2018, Recognizing the One in All of Us, Seeking the Light in All was in 2019. And of consequence to our current situation in America, last year, the virtual walk, which was supposed to happen in Germantown and Roxborough, but happened virtually, Love and Trust Break Down Walls. So if anyone has any questions about that, that's been the history of the walks, basically through the themes and the neighborhoods.
Are there anyone with any questions about that, or has that stimulated any thoughts in anyone? Also, another question that kind of ties in with that is, are there communities you would like to include that you haven't been able to or haven't had the time to reach out to? And when you mentioned the youth, I think that was one that we made an active effort to identify and reach out to. Are there other communities that we'd like to see involved in the walk?
I'll say something to that. In the programs that we've had, we always try to involve different faith traditions besides the 3 Abrahamic traditions. We have the primary houses of worship where we go, the 3 Abrahamic faith traditions, really just because of the space. We need to be in buildings large enough to hold 400 people, and so that's one of our challenges. One group we've talked about that we've done some work with and plan to do more is our indigenous folks, and that will probably be the next phase. One of the next phases we're involved with. We're in the process now of exploring where we might go to do that. So we're trying to do it all. We're trying to reach out to everyone, and could we do more? Always.
Yeah. Well, another community that we have begun to reach out to is the Buddhist community. Of course, that's a very diverse group of different kinds of Buddhism, but we have indeed established some relationships, and one of our presenters in the virtual walk this past April was one of the priests from the Tsintzin community in Fishtown, I believe it was. And whenever we do this kind of outreach, we really try to spend some time with the representative from the community or representatives, and we're available to visit those congregations of whatever faith and share our experiences, but also try to hear what their questions and thoughts are. And I think part of the upheaval that our city and nation has gone through has really challenged us to be even more intentional about that in our outreach. And Lance mentioned the sincere efforts we're making with African American congregations. We've had a number, but we're trying to be more intentional about it and to deepen those relationships amongst all of our many participants, and not just an experience around the walk of that particular season, but to have an ongoing trust-building relationship, because we know that trust is crucial. And so we have been through listening experiences, particularly in this time of upheaval, that have included some of our very committed African American members and participants, as well as the Sikh community, and various other groups.
Let me add that one of the comments is the Baha'i community would love to be involved. This is from Vanessa Hassan. Vanessa, would you like to say anything? Can we unmute her?
Sure.
Yes, thank you so much. I was trying to chime in. I realized I needed to raise my hand. So I have participated in a couple of the peace walks with my husband, Abdul Halim Hassan, who was one of the founders and when you first started. And I loved the peace walk. He introduced me to it. And the Baha'i community, I'm a Baha'i, my husband's Muslim, so we have an interfaith relationship. And one of our main overarching theme of the Baha'i faith is unity. And one of our principles is the abolishing any kind of prejudice, especially racial prejudice. And so that's why I said we would love to be involved in this. And I would love to join in with you guys in any of the planning. And so I'm offering myself from the Baha'i community as a representative of them, and I can take it back to the Baha'is of Philadelphia and Montgomery County and join in with you guys.
Well, let me just say this. Feel free to attend one of our monthly meetings. If you look in the chat section, I've given the email, the Facebook page, our website, and that information is there for you to copy, cut, and paste. Our next meeting is tomorrow night. It's going to be via Zoom. It's at 6:30 p.m. So you'd be you and anyone else, in fact, would be more than welcome to come to one of our meetings. They are open to anyone. Normally we meet, as mentioned, at the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is at 3rd and Jefferson in the, I guess you'd say the East Kensington, West Kensington, Northern Liberties area. But we're meeting via Zoom, so it should be a different experience for folks. Again, email us if you are all interested in attending. And if not that one, let us know if you want to be put on the mailing list. That information is also there. Just email us and indicate that you'd like to be added to our mailing list, and then we will include you in the monthly updates and the invitations to the meetings and to the walks.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. I have a Baha'i meeting tomorrow, but I am close friends with Linda and Rafika, so I know they will keep me posted as well. So I won't be able to tomorrow, but in the future, definitely. And I will give you my contact information. I'll connect with you guys and be in touch with Linda and Rafika. And Lance know me as well, so.
Thank you.
Hi, Vanessa.
I also want to, Lisa Parker, thank you. She says, I am so touched by the openness and courage that allowed the two women, meaning Linda and Rafika, to connect on such a deep level and across the faith divide. Pamela Peterson said also, Linda and Rafika, I really enjoyed hearing your stories, especially the experiences that brought you to this organization. Would Pamela or Lisa, either one, like to say anything? Pamela, would you like us to unmute you? No. Okay. Adab, did you have something to say?
Just that this is very moving, and even hearing how our story has unfolded has reignited that passion again for the work that we do and this much needed time. And it's just a blessing to be among all of you and have people that are just really willing to take out the time, even, join this conversation. And hopefully you will all join us in our future endeavors. So I just want to thank you on behalf of the Peace Walk.
Thank you.
I was also thinking that in terms of what you're saying, Adab, the cross communication, the sharing, the back and forth, that it is so enriching. And with Al-Aqsa in particular, I mentioned the hospitality, but your community has been really involved in a very transformative community process around the mosque itself and beyond. And it occurred to me that the tragic and really very terrible incident that occurred some years ago when the pig's head was thrown at the mosque and left in the middle of the night, how your community, I think because of the wonderful way that you've been so open and reached out and the trust that's developed, not only with the Peace Walk, but with many groups, it was a transformative experience of people embracing each other across all kinds of what you would think would be cultural and ethnic divisions. I wonder if you might speak to that part of it and the healing response of your community. I think we have time for a little bit of that.
Well, for those who don't know of the pig head incident, it was even like national. I think it was even mentioned on national news about this pig head being thrown at a mosque. That was our mosque in North Philadelphia. And we felt it was a major desecration of the mosque, and we were really shook about how, this could happen. And, it started to bring up fears again about 9/11 and, maybe other crimes that could be committed against us as a community. So immediately, this is what the interfaith community does. We come together, we develop these relationships, and it was just all of the friends and allies coming together and trying to ask us what we need, how they can support us. We were getting flowers, gifts, support in any way that we needed. And so the neighbors wanted a rally, and they wanted us to go around. And I said, the best thing I think we could do is have a picnic. It was 70 degrees in December. So I said, this is a perfect time to have a picnic, bring people together, bring those neighbors that all called and rallied for us in support of us, the allies. And it was just unlike any kind of, no offense to the churchgoers, it was not like your church picnic. This was, this had the Goths, it had LGBT community, it had we had a whole array of hipsters, and it was just a mix of community members and that connected with us and came and got henna tattoos or wore a hijab. You didn't even recognize some of the non-Muslim women that tried to wear a hijab for a day because they were donning these hijabs and walking around. But it was a very fun, and that's the beauty of it, developing these relationships where you find that you have this sense, this strong sense of support. And I'm just so grateful to these relationships and what our community in Philadelphia has accomplished through these strong relationships.
Thank you, Adab. And I know Lisa Parker wants to speak. She's next, and then Lance. But I just want to add about the pig incident. I worked for the Philadelphia Commission on Human Relations for many years, and I'm a part of the Peace Walk since the very first walk. I was the one contacted by the administrator at the mosque, and then later by the director of the Arab American Association. At home, on my phone, I was off. They did not contact the police. I was the first one to contact because of my involvement with the Peace Walk group. We have engendered trust with that group. They believe in us. They didn't know what to do, whether they should contact the police or not. They weren't quite sure what the whole situation was. So I made arrangements I met with the police captain and made arrangements for him to send a car over so they can meet privately with the administrator of the mosque. Again, that's that relationship building and that trust. Lance, you're next, and then, I'm sorry, Lance, if it relates to this, and then Lisa Parker.
It did relate to that. And again, as a measure of the trust that was built up, on like 2 days' notice, we were able to get close to 350 people to a prayer meeting, an interfaith prayer meeting at Rittenhouse Square, which was absolutely amazing. And then the outing that Adab talked about followed up after that the following weekend. while I have the floor here, I also wanted to mention that there's a note here from Linda L. Hi, Linda, again, who noted that the Tibetan Buddhist Center participated last time with Lama Losang Samten, and he offered an amazing prayer to all of us, which happily everybody can still see, along with the entire virtual peace walk that happened this past year, 2019. It's all on our website. You can look at the whole thing, or you can look at individual pieces if you want. So that's another advantage of, I guess, being in a virtual world, is it was a lot easier to record and maintain that. So you're all welcome to look at that. And Lisa, to you.
Lisa.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Great. The intentionality is something that I continue to be kind of struck by, both in the relationship between Linda and Rafika, the decision to continue to get to know each other and move into spaces that may be uncomfortable, and moving through those spaces, I think it's really a great lesson in terms of being intentional and spending that time and effort to really experience someone else's perspective. So I just wanted to acknowledge that with this group, that you do that so well. And because of that, you have the trust and the relationships that make so many other things possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. And thank you all for your thoughtful comments and your spirit and your energy, your presence. Our time is drawing to a close, so those who didn't get a chance to comment, or for whom there are more questions, feel free to attend one of our monthly meetings or to contact us. As mentioned, our next meeting is tomorrow night at 6:30. It'll be via Zoom. I have posted our email, our website, our Facebook, and also information about Peace Day Philly, if you wanted to learn more about the other activities that are going on throughout the week. I just wanted to draw your attention to one comment that was made, and unfortunately the person who made it put it in there and left. That's Miss Alicia Dorsey. You are all missing the big white lies. And I regret that she left after posting that, because it would have been interesting for all of us to perhaps have a chance to understand what she was saying, and maybe it would have opened our eyes or given us a better perspective or a different perspective. So with that, though, I turn it back to Vic.
All right. So I want to say, just kind of in conclusion, again, gratitude for everyone's involvement and participation. I mentioned at the very beginning this period of upheaval that our country, our city is going through. And as we think back on the examples of the stories that we've heard, and certainly this one about the pig's head and the outpouring of goodwill and of being really committed allies in action and presence, not just in words, but being with one another, may it be a call to us in the stormy times that we're living in and that may continue to get worse before they get better. May we indeed draw on that spirit within all of our faiths and our secular lives and all that gives us meaning. May we understand our oneness and continue to build in that direction. And so in conclusion, we're going to share with you an element that was in our virtual Peace Walk on April the 19th. This is a universal greeting that is led by Andrea Swinton and Pam Yawler. So that will be kind of our closing benediction, an expression of oneness. Again, we are grateful for your involvement tonight, and we hope that you will continue to be a presence with us.
I'm Andrea Swinton, and I'll be reading the Gandhi Foundation Universal Greeting, and Pam Yawler will be gesturing. This is dedicated to Peggy Witansky, a longtime peace walker. I offer you peace. I offer you friendship. I offer you love I hear your needs. I see your beauty. I feel your feeling. My wisdom flows from a higher source. I salute that source in you. Let us work together for unity and peace.
Thank you, everybody who joined us today for this virtual Peace Walk. We are hoping that next year you will all be able to join us and we can actually walk together, April 11th, 2021. Thank you, everybody.